Yes.
All right. Um, so today it's all going to be about solopreneur to a business that runs without you. Wow, that's a loaded topic. That's why I'm going to keep it brief because there are so many different things that go into really just starting yourself and then elevating, adding people underneath you and elevating into a business that eventually runs without you. Um, so uh, really doesn't matter if you're starting out or if you've got a team already, that this is all applicable and we can go off in whatever tangent you guys want. For those of you that don't know who I am, I think most people on this call already do. I moved to London about a year ago and over 40 doors of rentals. We do 8 to 12 deals a month, blah, blah, blah. Not very important. We did hit a huge milestone in our company, though, this past month where we hit a record 21 deals under contract at one time, which for us is a new high. So we're celebrating that heavily. For those of you that have joined one of these before, you know how we do. At the end, we spin the wheel to see who gets a free 30-minute pick your brain session with me. And then I'm an open book. So anything that I've done in my business, any struggles that you guys have, there's no bullshit here. You're going to get the straight answer from me. So please be vulnerable. Please bring your questions. If you do get value today, share this on social media. There's probably going to be a YouTube recording that I pass out as well. But share the word, right? I remember how I got started in real estate is discovering Bigger Pockets. And there was a realtor on there that kept talking about Boise and investing in Boise. And I was like, who the heck is this guy? But if social media never existed like that, then I'd never be able to find him. So guys, if you are shy about getting loud on social media, you are robbing someone else of an opportunity to gain value and gain insight to whatever your area of expertise is. It doesn't matter how far along in the journey you are, somebody can benefit from that. So I can't emphasize that enough. Get loud, get loud, get loud about what you're doing because people need to hear this stuff. People want to be part of a tribe, part of a community, to know that someone did it successfully before them and learn about all those failures so they don't have to go through the same stuff, right? So really the genesis of what we do, it's all about lead generation. And I just threw up a screenshot here of our lead VA, Alex. She manages all of our lead channels, all the things that we do in our business. In addition to the individual VAs, she'll send out a report, multiple reports every single day, so we understand where are we at with lead generation. This is the backbone of everything that we do. Without leads, there's no contracts. So if you are a solopreneur, this is going to be the struggle that you have, right? You get lead generation going. Maybe you're working a W-2 job. It's inconsistent. You know, if you've only got 10 hours a week to spend at this, then 9 out of the 10 better be spent on lead generation. You're going to see some wild ups and downs because you're going to, okay, 10 hours here, 10 hours here, 10 hours here. Oh, I got a contract. Now I got to be the closer. I got to do all the follow-up. Then I got to be the closer. Then I got to be the transaction coordinator to get it through the title. I got to be the dispo guy. I got to sell the deal. And all of your focus is then taken off of lead generation. So what we're going to talk about a little later is step one to getting yourself from a solopreneur to a business that runs itself is going to be automating your lead generation, or at least hiring some help there. You can find some really cost-effective and efficient ways to do that, and we can talk about that on an individual basis. But you got to really define what a lead is to you. Nobody defines a lead the same way. And I can tell you, even in our business, we have redefined what a lead is. I think we're on our like 4th iteration now of what a lead is. So in the beginning, a lead for me, when it was just me, had to have a timeline, had to have motivation, and I had to have some information about the condition. And I also had to ask where were they at and price roughly. Like, that's a lot of qualification steps. So I didn't have many leads that fit that bucket. Like, I was overqualifying, because if I didn't, then I'd have 500 leads to follow up with the next day, and I would just slowly be drowning in leads, and I would never know who was actually qualified. So the long and short of that is, if you're a solopreneur, you got to have a pretty tight lead criteria, or else you're just going to get overwhelmed in follow up. And as you get help, as you scale a team, you can be looser and looser and looser with what you define as a lead, because not many people actually tell you the truth in the first conversation, even the second conversation, right? You guys know how it goes. So a big mistake that I see early in the journey too, or even people that have VA teams that do this, is they qualify on price. Like, their lead generation model is, especially for outbound, is like texting and cold calling, is they'll verify it's the owner. They'll ask them like the first or second question what they want for the property. They'll pull up Zillow on one tab, and if the owner says something that's higher than Zillow, then the lead goes in the trash. And they have to have somebody that says like 60 to 70% of Zillow price minus repair costs or whatever. That's all trash. Don't buy into that. That is a formula. That's a recipe for disaster. So don't qualify on price. I can't tell you how many times we've had sellers that say that they want one number over the phone. We meet with them in person, or we have a virtual appointment, understand about their situation and their pain, and all of a sudden they're selling it to us for $300,000 less than what they wanted originally. That happens all the time. It's crazy. So don't qualify on price. It's always about timeline, and it's always about motivation. Someone's looking to sell and has a timeline within 60 or 90 days. And if they have some kind of motivation, we don't care about the price that they say at all. At all. They could say double Zillow price or whatever, we're still going to meet with them, okay? But if you're a solopreneur and you're a one-man person, you got to be a little bit pickier about those types of scenarios and feel out what a lead is or isn't from you. But the fortune is in the follow-up. 7 out of every 10 deals for us still come from follow-up. That's with us having TV commercials, pay-per-click, spend on SEO. We don't do radio. We don't do other inbound channels at this time, but we still spend about $35K a month on marketing right now. So we do spend a lot on inbound. And you'd think, oh, Ryan, well, if somebody calls in from a commercial or somebody calls in from pay-per-click or whatever, they're hot, right? Yeah, they are. But still, 7 out of every 10 deals come from follow-up. So when those people call in and we go meet with them, a majority of those people, we're still not getting the contract in that first appointment. Okay. So I can't emphasize that enough. Like, a lot of people, they just look at the low-hanging fruit that comes in. They want the deals that happen right now. They want the layups, and those do happen, just not enough to grow a business to where you guys want it to be. So only 3 out of every 10 deals for us happen on the spot on that first appointment. CRM. There's a million of them out there. So recently we transitioned to the beast that is Salesforce Left Main, and it is a beast. I can see every single combination of call activity by member, by type of lead. I can see ROIs. I can see number of dials. I can see completed tasks, how many texts we sent, you name it, it does it. But it was a pretty painful process. And most of you are going to be at a level where keep it simple, stupid is the right strategy. So my favorite that I used for like 6 years until we transitioned to this was Mojo. So Mojo is the one that I recommend most highly. That's the one that we train on for cold calling. And the reason why it's so great is it's super simple. You can do high, medium, or low priority. It's got a follow-up calendar. It's got a notes section. You can tag it different things, and it's a dialer. That's it. Like, it doesn't get more simple than that. It's super easy to train your team or your VAs on how to do it. So I know that there's Podio. I know that there's Salesforce. I know that there's a million of them out there. They got all these fancy automations. And when you're taking on a CRM, you really have to think like, how am I going to train someone else to do this and keep everything orderly? So I know at least our hottest leads are getting followed up on when they should be, and I can see it. If you can't do that with the CRM that you have, as soon as you hire a couple VAs, you got the wrong CRM. Simple is better. I've shown this a couple times, but I do want to reiterate it. Everybody always wants to know, like, what's the best list? What's the best list? So for us, it's always driving for dollars, always. And I think our record count of our driving for dollars list now is up to 27,000 records. So by the time that we text that, call that, mail that, in some instances door knock, by the time we get through that, it takes us like 2 months to get through all that data. We're ready to go through it again and again and again and again, and we're always adding to that. We don't take the time to specifically assign, like hire somebody to go do this. We tell our acquisitions people, or if you're a closer yourself and you're in your market, you're not virtual, we tell them, hey, if you've got an appointment, then spend the first 5 or 10 minutes or the last 5 or 10 minutes when you're done just noting a few properties in the area. It's a really efficient way to do it. So you're not wasting time driving and doing it. We have hired VAs that do virtual driving for dollars. That's also been effective. But depending on your area, the Google Maps or Google Images that you get are not always accurate. I know in Boise, it can be like 2 years before they update. So take that with a grain of salt. It's better than nothing. It's super easy to train if you don't have boots on the ground. So the county lists. So Tom Kroll, the famous wholesaler, one of the gurus that I learned from, he always used to talk about this rule of 5. Rule of 5. What's the rule of 5? It means when you call into your county office and you try to get some kind of public records list, you got to talk to 5 people to find the right person that knows what the heck you're talking about and will give it to you. Because most people are going to tell you, oh, that doesn't exist. Oh, you can't get that here. That's not allowed. It's all crap. You just got to call enough times to find the right person. I know in my area, it's like the only way to get some of these lists is on a janky Windows 95 computer that they have in like a dark corner of the county office. And you literally have to like go in there and print them off by hand. You can't send them electronically, and you have to scan them. And they're in this horrible PDF format that the harder it is to get and the jankier the format is, the better, because less people, the more barriers, right? Less people are going to have that list. So those are the best lists, or the hardest ones to get, the ones that are a pain in the ass. So don't sleep on those. There's other big list providers, data providers. We've used Audantic. We still use Audantic. You can use 80/20. These are going to be pretty expensive and pricey, but they do work, and it's really high quality data. Or you can just use PropStream. We use PropStream for years. Just know that the easier the list is to obtain, everybody else has it, right? So if you are using some kind of PropStream list, I would definitely mix it with some county lists to keep yourself unique. And then free lists from your title company. A lot of people don't know this, but you can, depending on your area, you can email your title company and they will give you entire spreadsheets full of accurate property data with property address, square footage, tax assessed value, beds, bath, multifamily, single family, commercial, all in one sheet per entire zip codes. that you can hit, and it's totally free. So ask your title company about that, because you can ask them for all kinds of things, especially if you've closed deals with them before. They're going to want to help you out and get you what you need. One list before I go to the next slide that everybody sleeps on is the garage sale list, which I don't have listed here. So if you set up a saved search in Craigslist to be notified every time there's a new garage sale, a lot of times they'll either list the person's contact info or the property address itself in the listing. You can reach out to them, get the address, or skip trace it. A lot of times there's a lot of inherited properties or probate sales that happen. What do people do right before they're about to move? They start selling all their crap. So that's a list that nobody hits, and in the summer is when it's hottest, because that's when people are doing a lot of garage sales. All right. I love this slide. This is really the journey of solopreneur, of working in your business to working on your business. And this is not a fast thing. So that's the first thing that I want to emphasize, is like, this is not going to happen in a couple of years. This could take 5 to 10 years to be fully out of your business, depending on the people that you hire and have around you. It could be done faster. But I can tell you from personal experience, I've tried to go too fast multiple times and ended up having to go backwards and correct some things, mostly people problems. So this level 1, right? You do everything. That's what we talked about earlier with the lead generation and why it's hard to stay consistent. Level 2, that's when you're hiring that virtual assistant to at least do your admin work, maybe pull the list, maybe do the skip tracing. You can use a recording program like Loom or Droppler to film you on your screen doing stuff. Very easy to send that to a VA, and they know exactly what to do and exactly what to train. Level 3 is going to be when you have that, and now you have a VA that might be doing some texting or cold calling. Level 3 is really like when you start to see multiple deals a month. So before, it's pretty difficult to get more than like 1 to 3 deals a month if you're doing everything A to Z. If you can get to level 3 and you can get that lead generation automated, or at least get some help and consistency there, that's when you're going to start to see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 deals a month. There's a big jump between level 3 and level 4, and that's why level 3 is circled here. There's nothing wrong with staying at level 3 indefinitely. Like, if you want to be a solopreneur, by all means, like, if that's what you're great at and that's what you want to do, there's nothing wrong with being Michael Jordan. Like, you don't need to be the owner of the Bulls. You can just be Michael Jordan. You don't need to be Phil Jackson either, right? So that's a line that Brent Daniels always says is, hey, if you want to be that highly paid, if you want to have that highly paid job, if you want to be that highly paid individual and not the owner, this is a really good place, profitable place for you, because as soon as you start hiring overhead and people, now you got liabilities to pay, and now profitability dips. If you stay at level 3, you can net $1 million a year here in level 3. As soon as you start going to level 4 and level 5, you're not going to be netting $1 million. You're going to take a hit in profitability because you're investing back in the business and investing into people. So my main message on this slide is going to be, you really got to decide if you want the headache and the gain and upside of building a team and scaling a team. There's absolutely nothing wrong with staying at level 3. You can do this for 5 to 10 years, buy some assets and retire and live on the beach. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Totally personal preference. Okay. But that jump to level 4, now all of a sudden you're hiring an acquisitions guy or a sales team. A big mistake that I see going to level 4 is hiring part-time salespeople. part-time salespeople, especially I mean, I did this too. When I was double dipping in this, when I was an engineer, I had hired some part-time people because I was part-time and I didn't feel like, well, if I'm not full-time, then I shouldn't hire anyone else full-time, and that's crap. Okay. Don't hire people part-time in your sales org. You might have 3 to 6 month stretches of success, but you're going to be frustrated because they're going to leave, or you're going to invest a ton of time and opportunity training into them, and something's going to happen where they don't see eye to eye because you're not full-time or whatever. Like, you don't want that drama. Just go for the wait until you've got a financial nest egg, you're trained up in your processes, you got stuff documented, you're ready to bring them on and train them and invest in somebody full-time. You won't regret that. So the part-time thing, just skip that altogether. Level 5, that's when you're going to have at least one strong acquisitions person that's doing a majority of the closings. So in all these first 5 levels, guys, you are still heavily involved in sales, and even through level 6. Like, sales and revenue is what brings in the bacon. So depending on if your model's wholesaling or flips or construction, it doesn't matter. If you're off doing that stuff and your lead generation or your sales aren't coming in on a regular basis without you, what happens? You got huge gaps in revenue. You got leaky buckets. So this whole time you have to be committed into sales and still closing properties yourself, showing the team how it's done, setting the example, because if you don't have a sales manager, you are the sales manager. Level 6, that's when you got your marketing fully automated. Really, all you're doing is just tinkering with decisions about how much money am I pouring into each stream every month. If you're just starting out, I would pick one marketing channel and just be a master at it. Then you can add a second. I would not try to add 3 or 4 marketing channels from the start. You're setting yourself up for an expensive disaster. So add these revenue channels, maybe 1 a year, and then you might switch if the ROI isn't there. Got to have a way to measure ROI. So all those things to consider with lead generation and fully automating that. And then level 7, that's when you finally are hiring that dispo manager. So for me, myself, I actually did dispo in our company just until like last year, because the dispo position, from saying one sentence, you can cost or make the company like 20 grand. And I know we have a varying level of experience in this call, but we've all had those buyers that try to strong arm us, or, well, where do I need to be at? Or exit strategy with the property, right? If you flip it instead of wholesale it, then maybe the margins aren't there, something happens in the economy. Like, this is, the dispo manager is also your asset manager, okay? That's who's making the decisions on the exit strategy of the property when you guys get that under contract. This is the last position to outsource. It's critical. The most money can be won and lost in that position. So it's going to take you the longest amount of time to find the right person for that role. And if you don't have the right person for that role, there's nothing wrong with you hanging on to that until you do, for a while. Guys, I want to open it up. Any questions on this slide? I know I spent a lot of time on it, but does anyone have any questions on where they're at, or before I go to the next one, what they should be doing?
Yeah, just a question on the level 3 lead gen. Like, what would be an example of outsourcing your lead gen?
Yeah, so like hiring a cold caller.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or hiring a texter, or hiring a VA company to outsource some outbound marketing altogether, or getting a hiring a person or a VA to upload a direct mail list once a week, right? Or paying for PPC or TV commercials or radio or SEO. That's also a way to automate your lead generation. It's just going to cost you more money than time, right? So if you got more money and less time, maybe you got a high-paying W-2 job. There's nothing wrong with going the inbound direction and just spending money on those expensive lead channels of inbound marketing instead of having more time than money and messing around with outbound.
Yeah, so I got a question for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Would you say getting a VA to handle your administrative work first is more beneficial than getting a VA to handle a portion, if not all, of your lead generation? If
I
it's
do,
going to
yeah.
be your first VA.
Yeah, I do, because admin work is harder to screw up than lead generation. Like, I know a couple guys that are big into direct mail, and they've wasted thousands of dollars because the VA like uploaded the wrong column for property address into the mailing list. So they got like 5,000 pieces of returned direct mail, right?
Yeah.
Or like if you're outbound, if your VA is saying the wrong things to sellers, you're not going to get any leads. Right? So we'd rather have them do the stuff that's more or less idiot proof, that we can record on a screen. This is exactly how I do it. This is exactly how I want you to do it. It's so much easier to just go on Upwork, send them those video recordings. This is exactly what I need done. Boom. And you do that over and over and over, and it's cheap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Any other questions, guys?
I guess my last question would,
Yeah.
go ahead, Jared.
I was just going to ask a question on the previous slide on the list. So when you're calling title companies, like what would you be asking them for, in terms of lists?
Yeah. So I go to the title company, because now I didn't used to do this from the start, right? But I used to niche it down. So like, for example, I would go to the title company and say, hey, I'm looking for a data list of all properties in this zip code that are multifamily. Can you send me that? Or how would I get that? They have access to all that stuff. So it's really just a question of asking them what you want, and then they'll ask questions back. Okay, how much do you want, like bed and bath count or whatever? Not every title company is going to have this, but ask around. Now we're at the point where we just market to entire zip codes. Like, we'll still sort on price. Like, we don't really want to hit in our area anything over like $1 million, because there's not as much distress historically in that $1 million+ realm. It's a lot of newer homes, remodeled homes, that kind of stuff. So we'll still sort out the higher price stuff and go after, unless it's a multifamily, we'll go after those at any price. But now we'll hit entire zip codes. So there's a lot of customization you can do depending on what you're trying to hit. So all you got to do is ask. Will, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna ask what level you think you guys are at right now on the next slide.
I'm so glad you asked, because every time that I think that I'm at a certain level, I always have to go backwards a little bit. If there's a vacancy, if we've got turnover, something that happened to us in the last 2 years, we've had a lot of turnover in the sales department. So every time that happens, now my dispo manager, I have to ask him to get back into sales, and then I have to get back into sales as well. And until we find that right person, that right hire, then I can delegate and elevate again. It's never perfect though. So you might get 10% of your time back from a hire, but then you might get only 5% back if somebody leaves, or like if somebody isn't doing their job correctly and there's a training issue. So it's not as clear cut as the table indicates. But right now we're at level 7 for sure. For sure.
Okay. Very cool.
Yep. The longest part is going to be really like level 4 to level 6, because in just sales in general, regardless of your industry, you're going to have like 30 to 35% turnover from sales reps. That's just the nature of the job. In person, like people have to be bought in. They got to be at the right stage in their life to pound the pavement every single day to drum up deals, drum up business, meet with people. So you're just going to have turnover every year. So really, to get from level 3 onwards, you have to start thinking about hiring the same way you think about lead generation, which actually brings me to my next slide here. This is a current screenshot of our org chart. Right now, we've got quite a few vacancies, but I've got a VA that runs all the other VAs on texting and calling. I've got 2 COOs, one who's a true integrator, one that runs the construction group, but also does dispo, depending on how many flips or new developments we're doing at any one given time. And then we've got quite a few people in our acquisitions department. We're always looking to add talent there.
Were those people at the bottom, are those VAs or are those like full-time employees for you?
They're full-time VAs, the ones on the bottom right under Alex. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I think, as I mentioned earlier, like we've really loosened up, because now with the additional lead managers and salespeople, we've loosened up our definition of what a lead is, because we really don't want our VAs talking to people longer than they need to be. Like we want that passed to a sales rep as soon as possible, because we just want a US based person to start talking with our leads earlier and earlier, so we don't miss those opportunities. So now a lead for us is if someone's interested in selling, that's a lead. And that's why we needed Salesforce, because now we've got like 300, 400,000, 500,000 records in our database that we got to manage and go through. So to that point on hiring, it'll really change for you, and it's going to be really challenging. It'll change for you though when you start treating hiring like you do your lead generation. So WiseHire and Upwork are by far the 2 best platforms to do this. Upwork, more for VAs. That's more of a solopreneur level. Hey, I'm looking for an admin VA. I'm looking for a lead gen VA. Those type of things. There's a million companies out there that'll do them too. But I really like Upwork. I think it has the highest quality of individuals on there because of the way they set up their system. It really helps keep the VAs accountable on what they're supposed to do. And then for WiseHire, this platform, we always have these sales positions posted, always, because we're always looking to, it's just like a roster of a sports team, right? Like if you're not upgrading that roster, then you're losing. So we're constantly looking to hire and upgrade to A players. And WiseHire will post across all the job platforms for you. It's like a couple $100 a month. It's a game changer though for hiring and getting applicants. We've tried everything. We've tried recruiters. We've tried posting on LinkedIn ourselves. We've done LinkedIn Premium. We've done all this stuff. Besides having a recruiter in-house, and it's well worth the money. You'll get tons of applicants, tons of qualified people. So if you have just a specific position that you need, especially if it's sales, I would highly recommend Wise Hire. All right, guys, that's all I got for today. I know it's pretty broad, but I wanted to open it up for Q&A to help some people with whatever your struggles are.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, what are your numbers looking like? Because if you want to do 1 to 2 deals a month, how big is your volume to be able to get to those 1 to 2 deals a month? Like from list pulled, like the total boiled down to your leads to offers to contract signed. If you want to get 1 to 2, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I would say really the first level where that starts becoming measurable is the number of leads to contract. So outbound, if you're doing cold calling or texting, anywhere from 1 in 30 to 1 in 50 leads is going to be a contract. Again, totally depends on what your definition of a lead is. But if you're tighter with that, it's going to be closer to that 30. If you're looser, it's probably going to be closer to that 50. If you're doing inbound, it can be anything from 1 in 10 to 1 in 20, roughly, maybe a little bit higher, depending on what inbound channel it is. If it's pay-per-click or TV commercials, those are going to convert the highest. They're also the most expensive. So those are going to be like 1 in 10 to 1 in 15. There's some really cool sites out there like Speed to Lead. Gosh, there's a couple more. Motivated Seller Leads. Like there's these one-off platforms that will sell you leads individually for a certain cost. And there's a bidding system for it. Those are like 1 in 20 to 1 in 25. But it's kind of nice because you just pay for the lead and then you get the lead. So it's pretty passive. So did that answer your question at all? Like number of leads to contract?
Yeah, I just was kind of trying to get an idea because obviously we don't have the marketing budget to do the same volume that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
So just trying to figure out number wise where we need to get to be able to start generating some income, to be able to start doing more volume and just go from there.
Yeah. If you've got a unique list, and it's been a while for me, but if you've got a unique list, like a driving for dollars list, I think when I got to like 250 to 300 driving for dollars records or property addresses, I could get a contract out of that. If you've got a list that everyone has, like it's from PropStream, it's probably going to be over 1,000, like 1,000 to 2,000. So a lot of that is going to depend on your skip tracing too. Like if you're using one of the cheap providers, we use Lead Sherpa for most of our bulk skip tracing, and then we use Skip Genie for stuff that we really want to be super accurate and specific on, which is more expensive, but also more accurate. So if you've got 2,000 records, but you got a really cheap, clunky skip tracing thing, and you only got 30% accurate numbers, obviously that's going to really impact the number of people you can even connect with.
Is there a certain,
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
For someone that isn't looking at this point to do like a Lead Genie that's more expensive for super accurate, what would you recommend is like the best like middle ground skip tracing if we're going to be starting to do texting or calling? What would you recommend?
It's probably either going to be Lead Sherpa or Batch.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you would do the driving for dollars poll, would you then take those and hit them in both calling and texting? Like what would kind of that campaign look like for your business?
Yeah. So I have a huge flow chart of our skip trace process now, but I'll just tell you like specific to the driving for dollars list, because that list is so coveted. I'd send them through a lead Sherpa or a batch first. I'd text it, I would call it, and then everyone that you're either not able to get a number for or you're not able to contact out of that list, then I would put all of those through like a Skip Genie platform to see if you get any extra hits out of that. That's how I would do it. But if you lead Sherpa and batch are still going to be 80 to 90% accurate usually. So as long as your addresses are right and you upload the form correctly, they're still really accurate for bulk uploads, for LLCs too. But that's a way that you can be really effective and efficient in what you're spending.
Hey Ryan, it's Mike. What do you think is the reason? I mean, give me what you think, 10,000-foot view of the change in the last year with just wholesaling in general. I mean, obviously, I've been in it for a while, and why you've pivoted so much more. Like when I see your sub-2 numbers, I'm like, man, is that what you're like leading with, and that's all you're doing, trying to buy everything, or like, I'm just kind of curious, like how much that's changed your model and what you go after.
Yeah, so it doesn't change at all what we go after. Like all of them come through the same funnel. Like we don't in the last 2 years, we didn't change really at all who we market to or the lists we market to. It's more of what our exit strategy was because of what was happening in the market. So like 2 years ago, 9 out of every 10 deals we were either keeping or flipping. So we were wholesaling almost nothing. And it was pretty difficult to get a creative finance deal because the markets were going so nuts. Like everyone had so much equity, everything was appreciating so fast. People would just get multiple offers cash, or you'd walk into an appointment and there would be, well, I got these 7 other offers, or I got 5 people coming after you type of thing. And then as soon as interest rates increased and the market started changing, and we got our ass handed to us on some flips, we decided, hey, you know what? The market's not a flipping market right now. It's starting to decline. How can we do deals? Like, what do our buyers want? If we start wholesaling again, what will they actually buy? Because there was a period from May to, I want to say, really the end of the year, start of January, where people weren't, like, investors weren't buying anything. It was really difficult to wholesale anything. It was really difficult to make any money flipping in our market. So we were just looking at it like, what could we actually do? And a lot of our sellers weren't able to get those cash offers anymore because the market was declining. And we were one of the only players that was offering this creative type option. Well, sounds like you can't get a cash number or offer from somebody else that you like, but what if we could come up to your number if you work with us on the terms? And we started getting some traction because people is really just what the market was giving us. So likewise now, like we never did novations before, but now we're doing novations too. It's just another exit strategy, but the marketing itself and who we market to never changed. It was just the exit strategies, and a lot of that had to do with like what the market is giving or what it's not giving. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I could see an environment here in whenever the labor market starts to actually break from all these increases from the Fed, and more people get laid off or not. I could see a scenario where if rates stay higher for longer, there's going to be this weird standoff where there's going to be a low inventory environment, a low listings environment, kind of this stalemate of steady growth, but nothing crazy and not really declining either. Or if the labor market starts to break and they need to start lowering rates in the next year and a half, that's going to be a flipper's market, because things are just going to appreciate like crazy again as stuff gets more affordable. So pay attention to that macro stuff, because it does matter. I used to think that it didn't really matter, but who gets elected president and all that stuff actually does have an impact in how people spend their money and what the capital markets think. So what else we got? How about Angelo or Abraham? What are your guys' struggles?
Yeah. Right now I'm just trying to figure out, I'm probably gonna hire an acquisitions manager. I was just wondering, how do you pay them? You know, is it commission or is it, I'm just kind of in the blue on that.
Okay, love this question. We've done it all. I can tell you what we do now is by far my favorite. We do commission only, but there's a guaranteed draw every 2 weeks. So the problem with if you do commission only, or you do like a 1099, which I have done in the past, I won't go down that tangent, but if you do commission only, the first thing somebody walking in the door is they're just going to be worried about when they get that paycheck. And so that's going to hinder their performance. Like every seller appointment, every call, they're going to have commission breath. They're going to be like, oh, I want the deal. What price? And they're going to be super anxious, and it's not going to work for anybody because they're just so worried about when that money is coming in. Likewise, if you do salary, that's not really going to incentivize them to produce revenue. Like if they're getting a guaranteed paycheck, then it doesn't matter for them. So the hybrid that we came to is this draw system where they get a guaranteed draw every 2 weeks, but they're borrowing against their future commissions. So if they make a sale, typically, like for us, it's pretty challenging for someone to close their first deal. They might get a contract in the first 30 or 45 days, but to close a deal is usually about day 60. So then whatever commission they make just zeroes out with whatever they've been paid that draw, and we just keep a running tally there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then what about dispositions managers? Is it kind of the same thing, or?
Yeah, there's a lot more variance in dispo managers. I think if they're purely dispo, then I don't think there's anything wrong with having either a similar structure or a lower, like some kind of actual base salary, because most dispo managers, their commission is usually like 1 to 5% of the deal. I've even seen structures where like they get a higher percentage if it goes this much above the list price. So like say you blasted it out at 200, if they can get 210 or 220, maybe they get an extra percent or two the more it gets bid up. So there's a lot of ways to do that, but because the commission amount is going to be less, usually like 1 to 5% of net on the deal, then it's okay to pay them a little bit of a base salary, in my experience, instead of just the draw thing, because they're never going to get, they'd have to sell like 100 deals to be able to make up for all that commission, because your acquisitions people, like for us, it's a straight 20% net for outbound deals, and net 10% for inbound deals. And so their commission rates are so much higher, so they can get bigger checks that the dispo guy can't.
Okay.
Ryan, what time is it in London today?
It's 12:24. Early.
Oh boy. Staying up late.
Yep. Yeah. Abraham, you got any questions?
Yeah, no, well, firstly, thank you for hosting this, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only marketing channel right now is cold call, but I'm finally starting SMS. I'm not too sure. According to my data, we're doing about 8 leads a week. but I'm only having them send over people that are expressed interest in selling, but actually have a reason to sell, right? And I've done 5 years so far. I mean, 5 deals so far this year. But I'm not too sure, man, what I'm doing wrong. I don't believe it's the sales. Like I'm in Sandler sales training and I teach my cold callers, my junior act, what I learn and stuff like that as well.
So there's a lot. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. So what does your marketing look like on a weekly basis? Like how many people are you talking
Yeah.
to?
Well, there's 5 full-time cold callers. I don't have it broken down in a weekly, but year to date,
Sure.
we're at $62.18 a cost per lead. So that includes the data, which I have all of my county, that's a little older. I have like the dialer on there, and then the wages to pay the VAs. And so our cold call spend, including all of that, year to date is $14,177.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty good cost per lead. That's lower. I mean, you're right in the ballpark of like 50 to $100 for I know like texting, you can get that even lower, but I don't think that, I mean, that's right in line with industry standard. How about number of leads to contracts? Do you know that?
Well, I have 228 leads have been submitted, so we've closed 5 of those. So what is that? 45.6 leads per
Okay.
contract, roughly.
Yeah. So that's right in that range that I was saying earlier, like 30 to 50. How about the data? Or is it coming from like a prop stream? Are you getting any local lists?
I have to start doing that. I purchased from a big wholesaler out here a while back, a big Maricopa County list that's got like 1 million records, sort of. So we haven't even gone through all of it quite yet.
Okay. I mean, your market's Phoenix?
Yeah,
Okay. What's your average deal size? You don't mind me asking.
37,000.
Okay. So I don't think you have a problem at all. Your ROI
Well,
is great, right?
I mean, I sort of, yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's like my second full-time year doing it. So I mean, I'd like to, see an increase. So I guess I'd have to get into like PPC, but I had a bad experience with that 2 years ago.
Have you
But yeah,
tried texting?
I was on and off, but I'm taking it seriously now. I was just scared about like I just got a Wyoming LLC to open one up here in Arizona to have like immunity. And so I'm going to sign up with Launch Control to start like the 10 DLC process and start SMS blasting.
Okay. And are you the closer or do you have any sales guys?
No, I'm the closer. I have a VA that's a junior act. He just kind of alley-oops him over to me, and then I'll go on the appointment or try to close it over the phone. But everybody says that in person is better, so that's what I've been doing. And obviously, we do the cash offers. I did one ovation this year. Been pitching those, but no other luck. And then we pitch creative finance to every lead we talk with that we can't convert, but we haven't been able to convert anything in creative.
Yeah, that it takes time. Like for us, we really struggled with it for an entire year before we saw meaningful deals from creative finance. But to me, it just sounds like you need more leads.
Yeah. So would you recommend I just get more callers and also do the SMS, or how should I allocate? I haven't really brainstormed quite yet how I should properly allocate my money to make sure I'm putting it to the most effective use.
Yeah, so I think the cheapest and fastest thing that you can do is to start sourcing some local lists. Like start getting some niche stuff. It might take you a little bit more time on the front end to like find the right county clerk or do driving for dollars or have a VA do virtual driving for dollars. It might take you a little bit of time on the front end, but that's going to be the cheapest, easiest way for you to diversify your data. You just plug it into the VAs that are already calling. That's probably where I would start. And then I think adding texting and getting a VA or two to do some texting would be step 2 for you.
And for two VAs, if they're going to be full time for SMS, what do you recommend the throttle for like messages per hour should be roughly?
Yeah, like a fresh list, if your data is okay, you should be getting anywhere from 20 to 30% response rate if you're using launch control. So it's gonna be hard for them to do more than like 400 or 500 messages a day and also keep up the quality of conversation, because that's the biggest thing with texting, right? Is as soon as they're interested, you want them to pick up the phone and treat it like a cold call. Like, really, texting is just to get your foot in the door, to verify that they're the property owner, and to start a conversation with them. Yes, they are interested in selling. Okay, boom, I'm picking up the phone. You don't want them to send 20 text messages deep to qualify the seller. So if they're doing that on a fresh list, and that means they're talking to people constantly, it's going to be difficult for them to get more than like 400 or 500 texts in a day on a fresh list. If it's a list that you've already texted once and it's a follow-up campaign, it's going to be like double that. You can probably get to like 800 texts a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the biggest thing. Like, I can't stress that enough, is picking up the phone quick is the key.
Hey Ryan, how much are you doing first to market? Like on those records, you're saying he should dive in deeper in his county clerk and all that kind of stuff. Are you, I mean, like divorce records, bankruptcies and pre-foreclosures, are you hitting those people like day one as soon as there's something recorded against them?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to get. So every single list is going to be released on a different frequency. So like the probate list in one of our counties is released once a month. The tax delinquent list is only released twice a year. So you're going to have to figure, like, code violations is on a different frequency. So I don't think it's necessary to like get super granular about, I got to get the list this day. Just the fact that you're going to the county clerk on a consistent basis and finding out how often they're released, and maybe you get it like once a quarter or once a month, is going to be plenty.
Got it.
Yeah.
So when you're going to the clerk's office, what are you telling them you need the list for? Because I've got shut down a lot where they're automatically assume that we're putting some sort of mailing list together. And I used to get away with saying, I'm doing it for a college project. And now it's just gotten tougher and tougher. So what do you tell them?
So now you got a beard and you can't pose as a college kid anymore, or what?
It's the change of emails, actually. I no
There you
longer
go.
can use the University of Idaho. I'm doing a research project email. So
Okay. I always tell them it's for a research project.
actually,
Yeah. That so
all
that
right. Well, that's what worked. That's what worked the best when I first started doing it.
But you don't need to be a student to tell them that. Like, hey, we're doing a research project. That's why we need the data.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's the rule of 5, like Tom said. If you're not asking for anything illegal, it's public record. So they have to give it to you. You just might have to talk to the right person that is feeling a certain type of way that day.
Yep, I got you. All right.
All right, guys. Well, let's anyone else got any other questions? I'm gonna bring up this wheel here so we can spin it. I can say we just started TV commercials like 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, like 2 months ago. It's performing pretty well. We've also had our ups and downs with PPC in terms of spend. Like last year when the market got soft from like July till November, PPC was really, really good, and then we had a huge drop off after that. Texting and cold calling have always been more or less consistent. But you know, you got to have the horsepower to handle all those leads and go through them all. So that's just some of our own experience. All right. All right, guys, let me share my screen again. Here we go. Everybody can see. All right. This is my favorite part. I'm not going to lie. Here we go. Will, come on down.
Hey, let's go. What are we spinning for?
Oh man, I'll have to respin because you didn't know. So no, you get a free half-hour pick your brain session with me later. So
Oh, perfect. I was talking to Ryan Miller about this when you were telling everyone at the meetup like 2 weeks ago when you're in town. And I was like, I'm gonna get that and I'm gonna make him watch an entire episode of Family Guy with me.
hey, I'm a Family Guy fan. As long as we don't talk about London tea, that's good.
Okay, yeah. I
Yeah.
figured you were, but no, yeah. Can I bring a guest with me? Would that be all right with you?
You can bring a crew if you want.
All right. I'll bring the whole family. You can meet my sisters, my extended family.
All right.
No, but I'm gonna bring Braden Vaughn here. We've got a couple questions for you. So,
Perfect. All right, guys.
all right.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
Adios.
Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Awesome, man. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you for putting this
Yeah,
on.
of course.